So, good afternoon, dear guests, dear President, members of the government. We thank you all for attending. I think that the proposals are quite practical. Now, I don't want to take more of your time, but I'd like to comment on the positions of ANA regarding reskilling and upskilling. Well, there are two issues that we're all familiar with, those of us in business. Two major issues. So one has to do with the digital illiteracy of many of our employees. So this is a huge issue that needs to be solved. What do we propose? We propose for businesses to undertake the cost of reskilling for digital reskilling of their employees, and this should be transubstantiated into a raise, and this extra cost for the raise should be tax-free. So we believe that this is a sensible measure and will have the reskilling approach bottom up. I know that most businesses are aware of the actual skills that their employees need. The second subject, and the elephant in the room that we've avoided discussing, is the fact that there are not enough executives in the market. For instance, speaking about the tertiary education area, we see businesses asking for a good employee. They need good employees. Okay, we don't have any to give you because all our students find work in parallel with their studies. So there's a huge issue, and we haven't discussed enough as to how we can solve it. That we don't have enough executives in the market. So I go off course on this. So how do we believe we can solve this? Partially, at least. I think that we need to revisit the issue of students' migration. We need to simplify students' visa procedures. Nowadays that we have English-spoken programs in many of the universities, we've seen many changes in the area of education. We need to simplify student visa in order for us to be able to have foreign students coming to Greece and working. Think if we had 25,000 students in Greece who would be able to work in parallel with their studies. This would mean income for our country, revenues for our country. This would mean that we need to have a special student visa framework. So if we solve this, we believe that this will make a huge difference in productivity and in the lack of human resources. That's all vis-a-vis my introduction to the subject. Thank you very much. Haris.
This is one of the most important panel discussions, I believe, because of its subject. There are the net proposals and upskilling, reskilling at the core. So let me first give the floor to Manolis Christodoulakis, who is an MP for PASOK, Movement for Change. Manolis, you're well aware of our positions. Time and again, we've talked about them with you. Would you share with us the reasons why you think that these days are the right time to discuss upskilling and reskilling? Generally speaking, why is this a critical period for reskilling and upskilling? To begin with, thank you very much for extending an invitation for me to participate. Last week, we had a discussion between Mr. Apostolopoulos and Mr. Hadjiminas, and something that was to the point was said, and I agree. During the financial crisis, the fiscal crisis, 10, 15 years ago, the critical thing was to find a job. Unemployment was, or rather the unemployment rate had skyrocketed for all of Europe. The critical issue for the labor market today is to find skilled people. There was a survey on the Access to Finance Enterprises survey that showed exactly what the enterprises are talking about. The interviewee said that the top problem is for Europe by 31%, 33% for Greece. It's difficult to find skilled staff. And that's also impacting on the cost for production. And therefore, the Greek enterprises have said that this is critical today. That's one thing. The second thing is that this is part and parcel of reality. You know what? Since people were trained or educated, maybe it's been 15 or 20 or 30 years. So many years down the line, you need to upgrade the skills of people. As of the moment when there have been radical technological changes, and it's been just a mere period of 3 years. 3 years ago, nobody could possibly picture having an app that would help you draft a lecture or a speech in view of your meeting. This is how you got it. Yeah, this is how I got an app to draft my speech. No, not really. I said half in jest. But then again, ChatGPT and other platforms out there, and they can help you with that. So AI is here. 3 years ago, we had no idea this was coming, and we couldn't expect it the way it happened as fast. DESI. And this is a ranking that shows we are worse off compared to the rest of Europe. It's all about connectivity and embedding technology. We are third from the bottom. Only Romania and Bulgaria are worse off compared to Greece. And I have a third thing to share before I cut to the chase, because there is the European skills strategy. The objective of this strategy is to make sure that 60% by 2030, 60% of adults will have access to lifelong learning. The average is 37% in Europe. We are at 11% in Greece, so we're a long way to go, given that we're talking about the objective for 2030. And let me now discuss next proposals against the backdrop of all this. There is a chain of things. You have to proceed with upskilling and reskilling. This will improve productivity. This will also allow scope for businesses to reinvest and also train the people. It's a matter of critical balance. This will help you improve competitiveness, that will improve extroversion, that will subsequently improve the trade balance. And this is. Shall I discuss your proposals? Maybe later. Let me first give the floor to the rest of the panelists. So let me give the floor to Mrs. Hormova, who is the governor of DIPA, meaning the Public Employment Service, the previously manpower organization. Now, you talked about such issues, and you keep talking about them. I have a question about reskilling and upskilling and the need thereof in the market, given your experience, given your context, because you're in touch with people, working people. Reskilling and upskilling, has there been an ever increasing need for such training? And how can you accommodate that? Thank you very much for the invitation and the question, and thank you for the introductory notes, because the MP really pointed to the critical role that DIPA is playing. Instead of having a labor market where people are looking for jobs, now we have a labor market where businesses are looking for skilled people. And DIPA, the Public Employment Service, has a critical role to play in that. And in recent years, thanks to the RRF funds, we've also proceeded, but we've also used our own funds. And over the past few years, we have undertaken a number of quite intense and intensive initiatives to help the people. And we are investing in reskilling and upskilling. We have 3 pillars, and these are also part and parcel of the priorities of the EU, the green transition, the digital transition, and it's also important to remember where we are. And there is also the need for computer literacy. So bearing in mind that we have to help people become more literate that way, we've already started reskilling and upskilling people, focusing on these 3 subjects or pillars. At the same point in time, we have certified 450,000 people. I mean, we help them upskill and reskill. Does this suffice? Certainly not, is my answer. So there's more that's needed. We embarked on this venture and we tried to do a huge task, obviously emphasizing on the basic skills, digital or green skills or economic and financial literacy skills, bearing in mind the starting point we had to start from somewhere. There's this baseline that shows where Greece is. And so we have to provide proper access to people in order for them to be retrained and re-educated, to have the right backdrop, and for them to have the right background on the basis of which you're going to build further. Up to now, between 2019 and 2025, I have to avow that we made baby steps in advanced programs and projects, and we were really helped by Greek universities. Really now, this was the first time when the new law allowed for Greece to rebuild a new training and re-educating architecture. There are rules, there are principles, there are performance indicators. There was horizontal access to lifelong training centers throughout Greece, starting from Komotini up north all the way to Crete in the south, for each and everyone who's interested in acquiring new skills. And at the same point in time, this was the first time when Greek universities partnered with us using their own education centers, and they are also providing training programs that were quite demanding. We have worked and teamed up with all Greek universities, and horizontally, but also on a pilot basis, we have provided programs to help people acquire new skills that are AI related or use AI, meaning that we have embarked on a very innovative training program which keeps abreast of what's happening with the trainee. And given where they're headed to and what sort of demand there is, given what they've already stated, the program adjusts the content to the needs of the trainee. So this is customized. And recently, we focused on 4 big sectors, and we're going to continue in that direction, taking into account what the businesses are telling us. So the market is telling us each and every day what their needs are, so what's in demand. And we also take into account the educational community, widely speaking, everyone. We are in close collaboration with the Ministry of Education. We are in close collaboration with the Greek universities. We will continue that way. We will insist on these partnerships to make sure that we provide the market and the people with the right skills and the right programs for reskilling and upskilling that will be fully aligned with the market, not just for today, but also the future. This was great because I can now pick up from where you left off and say this. You see, your work, what you just described, is fully aligned with a framework that could match our proposals. But before we embark on that discussion, let's give the floor to the next member of the panel. Let's welcome Mrs. Irini Vlachaki, who's head of Athens Office, Director General of Economic and Financial Affairs of the European Commission. Thank you very much, Ma'am, for being here. And here's my question. You are here to acquaint us with the European aspect of things. Mr. Christodoulakis said that we're lagging behind in terms of DESI ranking or DESI rates. And the president of ENE this morning also showed that we're lagging behind considerably compared to Singapore or the States. Now, since we're talking about Europe, upskilling and reskilling, is this something that you're talking about at the European Commission? And what is it that you have in mind in terms of new measures? Of course, we will be coming up with proposals on new measures, but then again, what do you have in mind? Thank you very much, Mr. Kefalogiannis, for the question, and it's a great pleasure for me to be here representing the European Commission. Already a lot's been said, especially during the previous panel discussion. A lot was said about the European framework. There was mention of the Draghi report and the Letta report. So these 2 reports were quite analytical, and they certainly insisted on improving and enhancing competitiveness within the context of the European Union already. We heard that the Union, the EU, obviously needs to take a lot of measures to improve its competitiveness. And this amelioration certainly is based on productivity at work or in the workplace. The main advantage of the European Union lies with its people, its human resources, and within this framework, especially taking into account the digital transition, we have proceeded with a number of initiatives, including the digital decade. It was mentioned before. And there's also the Skills Union that was also adopted this March. All those initiatives focus on developing skills while helping improve R&D, promote the single market, the capital union, promoting it. But let me focus on the skills. Definitely, the European Union has a long way to go. As far as the digital skills are concerned, since this is a subject that we're talking about, the percentage of people in the European Union that are equipped that way is just 55%, and it's half that in Greece. So half of the Greek population has at least some fundamental digital skills. It might sound strange because everybody is working with a cell device at hand, but then again, it turns out not everyone is literate that way. Especially older people are less familiar with technology. And then there are the various funding and financial instruments. There's the new MFF. There are other instruments that accommodate these needs, including the RRF. And we're heavily emphasizing on skills through the RRF already. Mrs. Homova mentioned the green and digital transition skills, and we're working great together. And thank you for that, ma'am. But as you probably realize, this is just some of many tools. There is a big number of measures. Let me just focus on the skills because this is what we're talking about. The moderator says, I understand that this is a critical issue at the level of the European Commission. Reskilling and upskilling is talked about, and I guess you will lend an ear to our proposals that do not have a negative fiscal impact, but certainly allow for upskilling and reskilling to benefit everyone. Let me give the floor to Mr. Panagopoulos, who is the president of the Greek General Confederation of Labour. In the past, and again recently, you have been critical, Mr. President, of the way through which the government was promoting reskilling and upskilling. So what about our proposals? We are saying that the main funding channel will come through the company, and that will eventually lead to higher wages and salaries. Mr. Panagopoulos, thank you for the invitation, and let me commend and congratulate you on this initiative, which insists on putting at the epicenter the digital skills, reskilling and upskilling. This is at the core of a public debate which is required. But before I reply to your question, let me share with you some other insights which do not make us beg to differ, but you see, these are insights that must be integrated within the context of a wider discussion that must happen to strike a balance, a necessary balance between employment and entrepreneurship. Quite often, the state tends to turn a blind eye to this balance, and quite often the governments believe that others are responsible for the striking balance. I believe that investing in human resources is not costly. It's not an expense. It's actually a critical factor if you want to be competitive and have a better economy. Investing that way helps entrepreneurship. It's important to acknowledge that. Let me also share with you something that I was impressed by, and I have to commend the president, and I don't do that often. Mr. Theodoropoulos, rather, the president of SEV, the Greek Industries Association, in the presence of the prime minister, he said something that was really true. He said that the factor that helps improve productivity is not a person who's working long hours. What will help and what is needed is the right policies at the level of the government. He referred to the cost of energy, and of course, the government must concern itself with other issues, including meting out justice, fast administration of justice, not having too many laws and making the legislative framework complicated. That's for the government. And then again, you have to have entrepreneurs, businesses that will embed AI and new technologies that are coming fast. So, We all agree that it's necessary to help the human resources, but in essence, this is not exactly happening because I would go so far as to say that there are no specific policies, and I haven't heard anyone mention policies. And let me not just focus on policies because I'm not downplaying on the importance of Yana Hormova's work. I know DIPA is working very hard. It's a public entity, public employment service. But then again, there's no such thing as a binding plan that will concern the entire country. And moreover, there's no such thing as a legislative and institutional framework that will be supportive of the working people. We have low wages and salaries in Europe. A big chunk thereof is determined against an administrative backdrop. People tell me that I always focus on the fact that we have very low salaries and wages. I am focusing on that because we have inflation, high inflation, and we have very high prices, or rather, we are one of the countries where profits play a great role in the GDP. We are third in Europe. And then collective bargaining. There is almost no collective bargaining anymore. And as time went by, it's been eroded. And even the individual labor rights are being eroded. And then again, people are working longer and longer hours. And the minister is gone now. But I will say it again. I've said it before. She said, why can't people work for one employer for 13 hours? When you can work for two employers. This is what they ushered in last year. And now they're asking us to work 13 hours straight for one single employer. What about surveys and research conducted at the level of the OECD and the ILO? Surveys and research shows that productivity in the 21st century must be intertwined with skills and knowledge. But we are significantly lagging behind. Greece, we are almost last. In terms of lifelong learning and education, we are certainly lagging behind considerably so. And this is pertinent because we're talking about skills. And Greece is significantly lagging behind in terms of getting people covered by virtue of collective agreements. And there was a recent European Commission directive that says that we need such bargaining to benefit at least 80% of the working people. We instead have 24 to 29%. That's the coverage. And then in some sectors where there's been an increase in productivity, nonetheless, people were not better remunerated. That's why I'm saying, like I said before, that what's missing is a cohesive and coherent policy. So let's stop being theoretical and let's instead do things, make things happen. Let's intertwine education and training with collective bargaining agreements. Let's also enhance the negotiating role of the social partner. Let's also make sure that we connect anew the quality of work with productivity. And we definitely need to have a tripartite debate. As we speak, there's something happening. I have to avow to that. It's not been publicized, not so far. But I think that in the next few weeks, I wish it were the next few days, but in the next few weeks, this tripartite debate will pay off. It concerns the institutional social partners and the government, and it touches on various issues at the heart of which is actually what you are focused on today. We are doing that, and I'm doing that personally. Maybe you've read about it. And I will discuss our point of view with regard to the proposals. It's important to have this dialogue. It's meaningful. It can pay off indeed because we need one large development, social and economic covenant. We need a new social contract, and we shouldn't just be talking about our individual fights and struggles. This is a democracy. This is a modern state that needs to follow the example of developed countries. So we have to be on the same page when it comes to the big issues and what we need in this day and age, meaning that we need to talk about the ways and the processes and the procedures through which we are going to be productive. I don't want to listen to people just preach about changing the growth paradigm or the productive model, but we have to be just and equitable because as we speak, what is produced is unfairly distributed and inequalities are becoming greater. Thank you, Mr. President. You were running late, but then again, you said you're going to take the floor later. Yes, I'm to the point, says Mr. Panagopoulos.
Να καλησπερίσω την Αντιγόνη Ξιώνη.
Now I would like to welcome Antigone Xioni, CEO of People and Business. Good afternoon, Antigone. Good afternoon, Ms. Axioni. With your long experience through your company on the labor market, could you please start the round of discussion on the NA positions? How important it is to have reskilling and upskilling in our country, and how these propositions that we are discussing can become a catalyst in order to have a competitive labor force in terms of skills at some point in time, in order to have a competitive, let's say, Greek product in the future. Well, it's important to be part of a panel speaking about the importance of reskilling and upskilling. And you know why? Because technological changes have brought about important changes in the way we work. They are not an add-on, an add-in to our work. They have redefined our work. So the upskilling strategy, the development of skills, it's not optional anymore. It's a strategy that is necessary for the survival of enterprises, for them to have a competitive advantage, to keep their labor force and grow within a constantly moving competitive environment. On the other hand, upskilling is not a panacea. It's not the silver bullet. We have new technologies that have been promoted and are there to solve other issues, inequality in the labor market, the insecurity felt by employees. In this case, we need a more holistic approach whereby all learning strategies will be part of a social framework, a social context wherein we discuss the new positions created and move on with new lines of growth. In general, I would say that upskilling is a necessary tool, but its effectiveness depends on its connection with the general strategy that a company has about its human resources. For employees, it's only beneficial, not only for them to keep their job, but also to develop and become competitive within the company and the economic environment. This strategy is closely related to the sustainability and competitiveness of an economy. And this is the role of ANM. In a very timely matter, and quite early in time actually, they have put the human capital at the center of economy, because this can work as a lever for growth and development. So if I had to make a brief comment about reskilling and upskilling, I would say that it is not, it is a prerequisite. It's not a prerogative.
Κύριε Χρυστοδουλάκη.
Now, Mr. Christodoulakis, last year you've certified that our proposal for upskilling with a zero cost has only a positive impact. What is your own position about this well-evidenced, let's say, proposal, and what is the thought of PASOK? Well, I will be quite careful and say the opinion which is both mine and that of my party. We are talking about productivity today, and we are talking about productivity here, not in the institutional framework that is needed in order for it to become a practice. There are two ways to speak about productivity. One way you put employees against you and you speak about entrepreneurship, and in other words you make your personnel an enemy because they have to work more to produce more for your own wealth. But there is another perspective, that of your employees as an ally who will develop themselves in order to commonly contribute to the common good. Now, we have three factors: the businesses, the employees, and the state. The more of them are satisfied, the better the result. The business is satisfied because they upgrade the skills of their personnel, and they actually reward them in terms of money without being burdened with further non-wage cost. So the business is happy. Now the employee has an incentive to reskill and upskill, and this incentive, as the president of the Hellenic Confederation of Labour said, is to earn more money. So there is a motivation, and they are happy about that. It's not an obstacle or a chore to have this reskilling and upskilling. Is an extra that will improve their daily life. And of course, collective bargaining agreements are something that will contribute in that direction. So the employees want that. The third party in this agreement is the state. The state can upgrade the human resources horizontally without paying anything in terms of financial cost. And not only that, you mentioned the IOV report. In 5 years, the GDP will go from 0.6 to 6. 3.6 billion. So if you promote and you improve the earnings of your personnel, your employees, your consumers, you reinvest into tax revenue, which will then be transformed into social policies. So when all three of those parties are satisfied, nobody can disagree with the proposal. And that's what PASOK thinks, our party. Thank you so much, Mr. Christodoulakis. You actually gave us arguments that even persuaded me even more. Thank you so much. And it's good that your party agrees with that. Thank you. Ms. Hormova, I know that your public employment service, DIPA, has many things that you've already described. If you remember our proposals, we proposed that we create a cooperation between universities and educational institutes with DIPA. They can build together programs, reskilling and upskilling programs, which would allow the employees, if the state accepts our proposal, that would allow employees to get this training through the DIPA. How can your service help in this direction with the programs that you already have, maybe? Okay, I won't depart too much from your question, but I will make a more general comment. First of all, about the proposal itself. To create a training portfolio for employees that will not be costly for the state, will not be paid by the state, and will have a benefit for the enterprise. This is the individual skills account. This is what we had in law 4921, and this is what we discussed with the Ministry of Labor in order to have surgical interventions and try to see how this individual skills portfolio will be built and how all these things will be credited into this wallet, in this portfolio. Now, your proposal is in that direction and has to do with the expanded network of cooperation that DIPA has. In the morning, the minister talked about the new school in Grevena, which responds to the local needs of enterprises to find employees and local people to find jobs. And we cover the skills needed. This is what we did also in Elefsina and Syros for the shipyards. We had subsidized trainings for young people who wanted to work in the shipyards. We did that in Ravenna for industrial automatization. We do that in the car industry, and we are doing this not only following the country's map, but also the businesses map, and finally the needs that arise across the country. So we have those memoranda of relaxed cooperation, and maybe we could also have programs that are stricter. And this is how we may move on, and with your help, of course, to get the new memorandum that will crystallize this idea. Now, another thing. The social partners have created a new legal entity and manage the resources that have to do with in-house training in businesses. Then the ministry has conducted and will continue to conduct on the basis of the strategic framework based on the national strategy for skills, which is constantly updated and posted on the internet. Well, they will have some agreements on needs that are not only sectoral but general for the population. So, as regards in-house training for businesses, for their own personnel to get specific skills, we are expecting President the deliverables of the trainings. We will continue working in a targeting way, offering small duration trainings, 300 to 400 hours, and horizontal trainings in new subject matters, in new fields. Okay, I'll keep that. We will discuss it off the record sometime in the future. Now, President, I'm turning to you. I don't have to ask you, I suppose. No, not at all. And what Ms. Kochormova mentioned, and I will keep up for the end of my intervention because everybody is interested in knowing where things are in the terms of this account for the skills. How do we use a proposal for this marginal cost? There are positive and negative things. The positive thing is that it is an incentive to invest in skills. It also promotes productivity and, of course, technological adaptation. Then it's also recognition of the value of certification because reskilling and upskilling are connected to real certification from international entities. I'm president of the Institute of Labor, and I've been saying that for many years because I've seen that things are going wrong on the Greek labor market. And of course, we have an upskilling which is done on the basis of a compensation that strengthens the importance of continuing and, of course, certified vocational training. In the short term, as regards fiscal neutrality, it has a positive effect. And I would like to underline something that I saw personally as Yannis Panagopoulos in a positive way, because as you said, it's different. In our confederation, we are not similar to other organizations. We have 600, 700,000 members, and we have this simple way of proportional representation to decide about things. So we will see what happens. But there is this message, let's say, trigger for a change in culture. As the minister said, we need to start a dialogue. We can remove all objections, those potential negative aspects that I mentioned. What will happen with security? Because there are some inequalities that may arise in terms of access to those upskilling and reskilling opportunities, both for employees and the enterprises, because people in the very small enterprises or people working for them are not able to have access alone, or their businesses do not take these necessary steps to do that. How can we include reskilling and upskilling in the collective agreements so that to avoid these problems that might arise in terms of taxes that so many people are afraid of? So my personal view is that your innovative initiative that you raised, you were the first to raise or among the first to raise. So this proposal is very important. And continuing vocational training comes back as an issue of interest for companies. And even in the taxation, let's say, field, it's important to visit this issue because you know that our factor for taxing labor is the second highest in Europe. I think Italy is above us, and everybody, all the organizations, all the associations of businesses say that this should be reduced. So we have to have a national social growth agreement. That's what I call it. If we want to come up to the standards of the European Directive for collective bargaining agreements, we have to include this obligation in the bargaining. I will conclude with a lega. It's a very difficult task in this in this account, and it's not something that had to do that for it's a special account for research, let's say funds. It wasn't possible to have that in-house. It wasn't possible to allow small and very small enterprises to participate. The big companies can handle this because they have the money. Tomorrow we have a very crucial discussion about the special account for research grants. We will have to discuss about the mechanisms for the diagnosis of needs. We have some of them, but not enough. We will have the employees, the employers, everybody will be there, and something good will happen with pilot programs that will also allow the state to take the initiative to include the public employment service in this effort. Thank you, President. For us in ENE, we are very much happy because PASOK agrees with us. Yes, the Confederation is positively disposed vis-à-vis our proposals, and of course, DIPA is there to help. Ms. Vlahaki, our proposal, is it something that you would discuss with your European colleagues as a means to solve this problem, which is also European? As a good practice, you mean, from Greece that could be applied to other countries as well? Well, of course. This is not a statement, of course, but I just need to say that tax policies are a personal choice of member states. It's a government policy for the member states, and it has to be compatible with fiscal discipline rules that we have in the European Union. And if we have such those prerequisites fulfilled, then everything that promotes productivity is very much welcome. So these measures will improve productivity, exports, and of course will have benefits for the employees in terms of money and in terms of profit for the enterprises. In general, many benefits. I will close by saying that it is important because it will attract and keep highly skilled personnel in Greece. There has to be an incentive for somebody to work in Greece because they will get better salaries. And this will allow us to have a transition towards added value model. Everything is very positive, and we will, of course, embrace it. Thank you so much. Ms. Axioni, it's your turn. Statistics have shown that Greek enterprises are not investing in upskilling, at least not as much as European enterprises, which do not invest much anyway. How much will this proposal turn a page? Well, you are indeed right. Statistics show that we are lagging behind in terms of investment on human resources programs, and this is not a statistical figure. only. It's a growth obstacle. It's an obstacle to growth because things are changing rapidly. Knowledge loses its value very quickly. What does this mean? Companies should not see training as a cost but as an investment because it's a one-way street when things are changing at those speeds. Only these programs can help us move towards growth. So, to speak about your proposals in NF, they are certainly in the right direction because we are not talking about grants or subsidies. It's a recognition of the investment made on human resources. So they are along the right path. If we want to help the economy and businesses develop and grow today and tomorrow on that path of technological advancement. Thank you so much. I would like to thank all the speakers in the panel and you, of course.